We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this rebel outpost for college football sickos with a donation. Hit the $ where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Everybody is welcome in to the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. With your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. Woo! College football, the projections, the playoffs, the aftermath. Week 11, Miami goes down. Georgia goes down. BYU survives. Let me first just talk about the BYU Utah, the Holy War game. Now, we did a live watch party last night, and it was crazy. It was wild. If you want to go back and watch some of that, especially the ending, go to our YouTube channel, Watch Party Live Show. At the time when the play happened, when the holding play was called, I said, I have no idea. They only showed it one time on TV during the broadcast, and it was too far away. I could not see it. After watching it, I do believe it was a holding, and I do believe it was the correct call. I do believe it was the correct call. But I'm not going to hold it against the Utah Utes fans for being incredibly disappointed because they thought they had won the game. I have seen enough to where, yes, bad calls goes both ways, but it's the call that you think it's bad or it is bad, whatever the case may be. It's the call at the end when a team believes they've won the game. Those are the ones that hurt the most. Yeah, there was a missed face mask call on Utah face mask BYU. I get it. I understand. I agree. After watching, there's a couple real good replays that you can see out there. I believe it was holding. I think it's unfortunate. I do not know why Utah was playing in press coverage on that play. It was 4th and long. But again, the game was won, in my opinion, on the other side of the ball, where Utah could not manufacture any points. Utah could not get any points, anything going in the entire second half. And that gave the opportunity for BYU to come back and win that game. Look, I'm just giving you my opinion here. College football's peek around the corner. I believe they got the call right. But I'm not going to hold it against any Utah Utes fan for still being upset today. I could give you examples of other college football fan bases. The same thing has happened, including my beloved Golden Gophers. It's the play, it's the call that the refs make when you've thought you've won the game, and then it's taken away. Now, the athletic director of Utah, Harlan, I get it. He's defending his fan base. He's defending his athletic department. I don't think he should have went down that road. But a lot of Utah fans are saying thank you to their athletic director. I get it. But from an outsider, I don't believe he should have done that. I don't think it was warranted. But for the Utah Ute fan to be upset, I get it. I absolutely get it. I am wondering if there is something else going on between Utah and the Big 12. Like, some other stuff haven't gone Utah's way behind the curtain. Now, we know that maybe Utah wasn't all that thrilled to go to the Big 12 in the first place. But maybe there's something else that is grating on the athletic director, grating on the head coach. And we may never find out what that is. Maybe we will. But anyways, it was a great game. Utah could have won that game. You could say should have won that game. But BYU got the victory. And I think they got it on the defensive side of the ball. They shut down a very game Brandon Rose, the quarterback of Utah, and Bernard and Glover. They were running their heart. Keithy got injured. It went pear-shaped after that for Utah. But BYU found another way to victory. Okay, now, today, we are going to do my second projections. No, not what I think it's going to be Tuesday night, although I put it out on Twitter. Let me show you what I put out on Twitter. This is my prediction of what the rankings are going to be November 12th. But this is not what I'm going to cover today on this show. On this live show, I'm going to go through PATC's projections of what the playoff format, the teams, the bracket is going to look like when it's all said and done. Just like we did last Sunday, November 3rd. Now we're doing a November 10th final projections. But this is my prediction of what the rankings are going to be on Tuesday night. And we're going to be doing a live show. So come join us. Real-time reaction to the November 12th release of the playoff brackets. Okay. Projected. So I think they'll have Oregon 1. I think they'll have Ohio State 2. Which would make it the Buckeyes number 5 in their bracket. I think they'll have Texas number 3 overall, which would have the Longhorns number 2 on the bracket. I believe they're going to have Penn State at number 4, Tennessee at number 5, Indiana number 6, BYU number 7. Remember, they had Penn State and Tennessee ahead of Indiana and BYU. Last projection. And quite frankly, I think Penn State and Tennessee helped themselves a little bit more than Indiana and BYU, just a little bit more. I think they're going to have Indiana 6. I think they're going to have BYU 7th, BYU 3rd in their seedings. I believe they're going to have Notre Dame 8 overall, 9th in their bracket, Alabama 9th overall, 10th in their bracket, Georgia 10 overall, 11th in their bracket, Boise State 12 overall, and 12th in their bracket. This is just me trying to guess what they're going to do Tuesday night. Now, Immaculate and a few others, I have no real good argument. But most people believe the college football rankings is going to have Ole Miss ranked in the top 12. And they will not have Georgia. And they may be correct. Ole Miss just beat Georgia. So why wouldn't Ole Miss go up in front of Georgia? Look, they had Georgia number 2. Right? They had Georgia number 2. Are they going to take Georgia number 2 to Georgia number out of the top 12 when it comes to the playoff bracket, the seedings? I don't think they're going to do that to Georgia, even if I agree that they should do that to Georgia. Okay? So, if Ole Miss is coming in, and I don't believe Georgia is going to be kicked out, not yet, who gets kicked out? I don't think Miami's going to get kicked out. I know they lost to Georgia Tech, but I don't think they're going to have Ole Miss ahead of Miami. Alabama just won big. Notre Dame just won big. BYU remains undefeated. Indiana remains undefeated. Tennessee won. Penn State won big. Texas big. Ohio State big. Oregon big. So I think the only thing I might have gotten wrong is Georgia versus Ole Miss, and I completely understand. The logic would say Ole Miss should be in here. And I agree with the logic. I just don't think the playoff committee. I'm trying to predict what the playoff committee is going to do Tuesday. Okay? So those are my predictions for the playoff rankings Tuesday night. Again, we're going to be covering it live. Come join us in real time where they release the next projected brackets. Now, let's get to it. Okay, hold on. Ryan Willie, maybe Utah should move on from rising a lot earlier Does the Utah Athletic Director need any cheese with that wine? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Ryan Willie, hold on a second here. We're having a little bit of a problem. Okay, I think we're okay now. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you so much for your generosity. Look, Brandon Rose looked pretty good. For his first start, he looked pretty good. Now, BYU seemed to have things figured out, the defense in the second half. Utah just couldn't get it done. I did not give Georgia a bump up. Thank you, Ryan. I did not give Georgia a bump up. I gave them a bump down from, okay, all right. Let's get to it. Thank you, everybody, for coming on in. James Foster, Stephen McNeely, Kenneth Bowman, Skull Buffs, Ryan Brooks, Richard L., Caleb Ramirez, Joaquin Morales, Kenneth Bowman, Matt Neeson. I get it. I understand the pain, Neeson. I understand the pain. Mr. Jayhawk, Mr. Monkey says, the evil badger. Greg the Gold. We're going to go through that tomorrow, but I got to tell you, Greg the Gold did not show up once again. Kevin Pryor is in the house. Norvell just fired his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Okay, we're going to have to hit that story in this live show. Thank you, Kevin Pryor. Holy smokes. I got to tell you, though. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I got to tell you. I mean, Norvell, he had to do that, right? But I got to be honest. Florida State missed on their talent evaluations up and down the offensive side of the ball. You want to talk coaching? Fine. You want to say they kept DJ Ungale in there too long? Fine. You can say they've had injuries. They have. You can say their offensive coordinator should have been fired earlier. Okay. But man, they do not have talent on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line isn't any good. Those receivers aren't any good. They don't get separation. Those two young quarterbacks, Glenn Brock, I know, look, I get it. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have a secondary. Receivers that can get open. But they're not showing. That whole offense, their talent evaluations was scary bad in Tallahassee. Start there. Now, okay, and again, the coordinators have a lot to do with it. The coordinators have a lot to do with it. They say, look, this is the guy I like on tape. This is the guy we're gonna watch him in person. We're gonna watch him catch the ball. We're gonna watch him block. We're gonna watch him throw the ball. My goodness. Florida State is dead last in the country in scoring points per game. Dead last. Air Force just moved ahead of Florida State. And I'm sorry, 90% of the schools out there don't have the recruiting ability that the Seminoles have. They completely whiffed on talent evaluation. My goodness. Antoine Coates is in the house. Mr. Monkey says, keep chopping. Heartbreak 25. Heartbreak 25 is in the house. Mark Ruckert is here. Expedition Greg. Stormy Cyclone. Jose. Brickbat. Holy smokes. My goodness. What an incredible super chat. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you, Greg, for the Sunday PATC study session. You are molding us into legends and leaders. Oh, my goodness. The Big Ten depth is questionable with just 4 of the top 25 teams and trying to argue 4 playoff teams. Thoughts? We're going to get into it all. We are going to get into it all here, Brickbat. I'm not molding you guys into anything. Well, the only thing I'm molding you guys into is being as bad as I am when it comes to picking against the spread. That's the only molding I have done. I made you geniuses morons. Greg the Cooler has spread his coolness out to you all. That's the only molding I have done in sub-zero temperature. I'm guilty of that. I am guilty of that. Okay. I know a lot of people agree, disagree. Mark Rucker, thank you so much for the super chat, Brickbat. We will. We're going to get into it all. Trust me, we're going to hit it real hard here. Mark Rucker, preventing a receiver from running a route on 4th is precisely when it should be called. After looking at it, I believe it was a holding. Last night I said I had no idea because they showed it to us once. ESPN, you showed that one time, only one time. But after seeing videos out there, it was holding. Why was Utah in a man press coverage? 4th and long. I don't understand that. I don't quite. That guy was alone on an island, press coverage. Why? That's the question that has to be answered. Again, just my opinion. Just my opinion. Okay. Let's get to it. Thank you, Ryan Willie Brickbat. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, Heartbreak 25. The Utah AD said the quiet part out loud. I applaud him. Jose covered 3 in that situation. The Big 12 just reprimanded. I'm missing breaking news all over the place. Holy smokes. The Big 12, Pete Thamel. The Big 12 has fined Utah's athletic director. Mark Harlan, $40,000 and will issue a public reprimand in the wake of his disparaging comments about officiating and the Big 12 after Utah's home loss to BYU. He was also seen visibly berating an official after the game. The interesting part is $40,000 for disparaging comments about the officiating in the Big 12 conference. Wow. Wow. Now, before everybody loses their composure, hey, Steel Austin, I get it. Big 12 sucks, Big 12 sucks, Big 12 sucks. Just don't spam that. Okay? That's fine. That you can put that in there. You can give me a call. Tell me Big 12 sucks. I just don't want a spam, a person saying the same thing over again. No spamming here. If you want to say it in a different, more creative way, go ahead, okay? But we get it. So no one is allowed to criticize the referee still. Good to know. Stephen Vitt. John Till, Ole Miss discovered Georgia worshiping a golden calf. We all know what came next. I have no idea. What came next. Anything, John Till, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Let's get into it. Okay. I appreciate the super chat, John Till, helping us keep the lights on. Ole Miss, Georgia, that's going to be talked about Tuesday night. That's going to be talked about right here on this show. Okay. Ah, you guys are killing me. Okay. First of all, before we get down to the PATC projections, we're going to quickly go through the athletic article of this morning. What we have learned about the college football playoff in week 7. Missouri believes they're in the playoff hunt. One bid ACC. Assume nothing. Assume nothing. After the number of unbeaten teams shrunk to 4 in week 11, we've learned that using the phrase, if they win out, is fraught with peril, and the SEC seems to be headed for a massive logjam. The Magnificent Seven, no, not the 7 ACC schools that were looking to leave the conference. The Magnificent Seven as the 7 SEC teams that are still in the hunt. Drinkwitz, the head coach, proclaimed his team is still alive in the playoff race. That's right, I said it. Playoff hunt. Playoff hunt, the Missouri Tigers. Really? Well, put it this way. Mizzou is now one of 7 SEC teams that could finish the regular season 10-2. Along with, in alphabetical order, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M. Those 6 all landed in the CFP Selection Committee's top 16 last week. Now get a load of this. Get a load of this. This is the PATC money shot number 1 of this article. Only 2 SEC games are remaining, matching any of those 7 teams. Next week, Georgia tries to bounce back from its second loss of the season against Tennessee in Athens. Now remember that. Georgia plays Tennessee next week. On Thanksgiving weekend, Texas goes to Texas A&M. Those are the only 2 cross-pollination games among the 7 SEC schools that are all in a massive logjam. All of them could finish 10-2. Think about that. Think about that. Georgia had a chance to vote Ole Miss off the island, but the Rebels coach Lane Kiffin finally broke through. Now the Bulldogs, preseason number 1 and the favorites to win the national championship, are in danger of missing out on the 12-team bracket. We're going to skip down to here. Now this is the SEC. According to The Athletic, the SEC college football playoff and title odds. The top 4, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. 78%, 75%, 68%, 62% chance of making the playoffs. Tennessee's at 39. Now, The Athletic is saying that Tennessee is going to lose to Georgia in Athens. Texas A&M is going to lose to Texas. That is what that model is saying. I happen to agree. So when I give you my projections on how this is all going to land, keep that in mind. I think Georgia is going to beat Tennessee next week in Athens. I know Georgia's struggling. I talked about it yesterday. Carson Beck, there's something wrong. There's something going on. But I have not been impressed with Tennessee. I love their running back. But there is something wrong in Tennessee as well. And I think Georgia is going to be able to pull out a win, go undefeated, beat Georgia Tech. That's going to be another tough one. Okay, that is the model for the SEC. Their hurricane warning. Number 4, Miami had been tempting fate and hoping for quarterback Cam Ward to pull it out of precarious situations for most of the last month and a half. Ward ran out of second half magic against Georgia Tech. Wow. The Canes' path to the playoff has narrowed. SMU, the 13th of the committee initial ranking, had a productive off week. The Mustangs are now alone at the top of the ACC standings. Miami's loss was the 10th this season by an AP top 10 team against an unranked team. Thanks to Pitt's loss to Virginia, Miami is still in control of its ACC championship hopes. The Canes finish off with Syracuse and Boston College. We have a bye week with everything in front of us to play for, Miami coach Mario Cristobal says. Now, let's get to the odds. The ACC college football playoff odds, according to the playoff model of The Athletic. Miami, 70%, SMU, 42%, Clemson, 38%. I do not see it. Louisville, 1%. BYU, 2024 BYU equals 2022 TCU. BYU's unbeaten season appeared to be over when quarterback Jake Rasloff was sacked near the goal line. But we know about the holding call. The 11-point halftime deficit was the largest that BYU has overcome to win since 2002 against Utah State. Hold on, everybody. I need a moment. To clean something up. We won this game. We talked about it. Mark Harlan told reporters, this was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew. The Cougars remain alone in first in the Big 12, a mere game ahead of Colorado, which had its own come-from-behind victory on Saturday night. Indiana has already locked up this season's best turnaround. The perennial Big Ten doormat now in contention for a conference title after going 3-9 last season. BYU is not quite that, but the Cougars went 5-7 in their first season in the Big 12 last year and was picked to finish near the bottom of the conference again. Sound familiar? TCU took a similar path to the playoff in 2022. Okay, so let's go to the odds. Whoops. The Big 12 odds. BYU 59%, Colorado 41%, and growing. We'll get to that in a moment. Hold on, everybody. I got to answer this direct message. I'm getting messages coming in here. And I just got to make sure I verify it. I might have some breaking news. Hold on. Okay, so those are the Big 12 odds. I'm working on something right now. I apologize. The Big 12 college football playoff title odds. BYU 59, Colorado 41, Kansas State 14, outside shot. And then they talk about the Hoosiers, right? 20-15 win over Michigan. And then they talk about the Big Ten odds. Look at the Big Ten odds. Oregon, 99% chance. They go to the playoffs. Ohio State, 99. Penn State, 95. Indiana, 92. So what that is telling us, ladies and gentlemen, that the Athletic believes that if Indiana, even if they get beat by a lot against the Buckeyes, they're still going to sneak in to the playoffs. Okay, so this is my projections. And then we'll get to your comments, and then we're going to open up the phone lines because I want to know your opinion on what happened yesterday. Not just the BYU game, but any other game that you watched or you witnessed or you read about or you saw the highlights on or whatever. Talk about the playoffs. What do you think the projections are going to be on Tuesday? What do you think is going to be the final result? I am going to show you once again, the November 10th, 2024 playoff projections. Now, on the left side was my projections last Sunday. These are projections of what it's going to be the final playoff bracket. Not what it's going to be Tuesday night. And my projections on November 3rd wasn't about the projections given out on November 5th. These are projections, final projections of what the playoff format is going to look like. So on November 3rd, I had Ohio State number 1. I still believe the Buckeyes are going to finish number one seeded. I got them beating Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. I got them beating Indiana and then beating Oregon in Indianapolis. Projections on November 3rd, I had Georgia, number 2. Well, we saw them lose to Ole Miss. And now I've got Texas winning the SEC championship game and getting a first round bye as the number 2 seed. On November 3rd, I had Miami as the 3rd seed. I still have Miami as the 3rd seed. Projections, November 10th. Projections of November 3rd, I had Colorado winning the Big 12. I said it last week. I thought Iowa State would trip up one more time. I think Colorado's going to win out. That means they're going to finish ahead, at least one game ahead of Kansas State. Colorado's going to go to the Big 12 Conference Championship game and beat a very good, very game BYU. So I've only had one change. Only one. Because Georgia got beat, and again, man, they underperformed. Ole Miss took them out. So I've got the Buckeyes, Texas, Miami, and Colorado. Now, for the rest of the seeding, 5 through 12. November 3rd, I had Oregon. November 10th, today, I still believe Oregon will be the 5th seed. On November 3rd, I had Texas. Well, now that I got them number 2, I got them replacing Georgia. So right now, I've got Penn State. I believe Penn State is going to be the 6th seed. On November 3rd, I had BYU. I had BYU. Now listen. Now I'm going to get the other side all angry with me. I had BYU losing to Colorado in the Big 12 championship game and still receiving a 7th seed on November 3rd. But not anymore. Not anymore. BYU has got some landmines still ahead of them. They are winning their games, no question about it. They're undefeated. They deserve everything they've gotten. They're undefeated, a very good team, but they're playing with fire just like Miami. And I think there's a very good chance they get tripped up before the Big 12 championship game. And then I got them losing to Colorado. Again, no disrespect. No disrespect at all to BYU. I just got them losing to Colorado. So I've got Notre Dame coming in 7th. Again, Notre Dame has a bad loss, but they are playing incredible football. They've got the Army game on November 23rd. They got USC. If they take care of business, and I think they will, Notre Dame will have a home game in the first round of the playoffs, according to my projections. On November 3rd, I had Indiana. And now I believe the playoff committee is going to give Alabama a home game. A 2-loss Alabama team blew the doors off LSU. They're going to do that to Auburn. Alabama, 8th. November 3rd, I had Notre Dame at the 9th seed. On November 10th, I believe that Ole Miss is going to end up at number 9. Not quite yet, but as the last couple weeks go on, Ole Miss is going to rise to number 9. On November 3rd, I had Penn State as a 10th seed. I've got them up to number 6. They wiped out Washington. They're going to wipe out my beloved Golden Gophers. They're going to finish 11-1. Indiana's going to finish 11-1. But the committee is going to put 3 teams between them. I think Indiana's going to give Ohio State a good game. I do think the Buckeyes are going to win by about 10 points or more. It's going to be good enough for Indiana to get to the playoffs, but they're going to fall behind Notre Dame, and the committee is going to have 2-loss Ole Miss, 2-loss Alabama before Indiana. Indiana without a top 25 victory. They do very good on the eye test. They're a legit badass team. They're very good. They deserve to go to the playoffs. I think they will. Look, the Athletic has them at 92%. I agree. I absolutely agree. Now, if Indiana if they go beat the Buckeyes, holy smokes. But if they lose to the Buckeyes by 10, 13 points, 17, whatever, I think they're going to fall to number 10. November 3rd, I had Tennessee. If Georgia wins out, I've got Georgia at number 11. I do not have Texas A&M. I believe they're going to get their 3rd loss against Texas. I do not have Missouri. I do not have Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to lose to Georgia. I think Tennessee is going to struggle against Vanderbilt. I'm off the Volunteers bandwagon. I've got Georgia finishing 11th, and then Boise State 12th. There's a lot of good teams that miss the playoffs. You can argue a lot of deserving teams that miss the playoffs. And for some reason, just missed. I had LSU last week, LSU this week. On the right side of the column, you see the addition of BYU. SMU. The loser of the ACC championship game, the loser of the Big 12 championship game, I don't believe is going to make the playoffs. I'm not arguing. I am arguing the projections are, what is the playoff committee going to do? Now, look, it's difficult to say this because BYU hasn't lost a game. They haven't even lost a game. Army hasn't even lost a game. So obviously I'm projecting a loss. And I'm also projecting the powers that be, the college football playoff committee. I am projecting them to put I am arguing my projections show that I believe that they're going to put Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama into the playoffs, along with Texas. I cannot see them taking out any of those teams. If Georgia wins the rest of the way, which I do think they will, Ole Miss winning the rest of the way, which I do think they will, Alabama winning the rest of the way, which I do think they will. And if Georgia loses to Tennessee, then Tennessee will probably replace Georgia. But I think Georgia's going to win. I can't fit those just missed teams into the playoffs. If it was a 14-team playoff, yes. Now, let's get to your comments and your phone calls. Let me know how wrong I got it. Record at 12-0 BYU, even if they lose the conference championship game. And a lot of people agree with you, Mark. A lot of people agree with you. 2 top 25 wins. I agree. But I do not see them. I don't know what team. No, that list was not by order of who was the most. That was just a list of teams. I don't have a number on them corresponding to how they just missed. Iowa State is not over SMU. That's not how I got the list. That's not how I did the just miss list. Larry the GM believes one of those one-loss teams should be out. Well, you let me know what one-loss team. Well, that is it. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Opening up the phone lines here. Give me a moment. Seven 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give me a call. Let me know how wrong I got it once again.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours.
What's up, Greg? As always, thanks for letting me talk to your platform.
You got it.
I just came in, so I've missed most of what you were talking about. I came in on that list.
Sure. I'm gonna put it up. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment. I'm incompetent. No question about that. So this was, can you see the screen at all?
Oh, I'm not looking at the computer.
Okay, so I got Ohio State number 1, Texas number 2, that's the SEC champ.
Yep.
I got Miami still number 3 as the ACC champ. That if SMU wins, they get that 3rd slot. Colorado, I got Colorado still at number 4, like I had last week, getting the BYU championship game.
Okay. I got
Oregon number 5, Penn State number 6, Notre Dame number 7, Alabama number 8, Ole Miss number 9, Indiana number 10, Georgia 11, because I think they're going to beat Tennessee. I think they're going to beat Georgia Tech, even though they're struggling. And number 12, Boise State.
So this is projection.
This is my projections of what it's going to end up being, not what it's going to look like on Tuesday night.
So with that being said, no projections are incorrect. It's a projection, right? So
now this one's probably going to be incorrect, yes. Just like my November 3rd is probably, I already changed it, right? So
yeah,
yep.
Projections change, and so but I will say this: the 2 things I wanted to talk about. For one, Utah does not want to be in the Big 12. I saw the AD's comments last night.
Yeah.
If I am Brett Yormark, I'm probably not feeling the best because as I don't think too much of the Big 12, to be honest with you, but what the Big 12 does have is cohesion. After the Texas and Utah left, they kind of banded together like a band of brothers, right? And their selling point is cohesion, right? Nobody's trying to get out or whatever, right? This is kind of the first time where there's a Big 12 team, in my opinion, does not want to be in the Big 12. And I think it'll be interesting to see whether he gets fined by the league and how much he gets fined by the league. But that was, out of everything that happened last night, the officiating was horrible, just atrocious. Big 12 is known for having horrible officials. But for him to say that publicly, I don't think I've ever seen an AD do that publicly.
Yeah, he got fined $40,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that just came out during our live show. He got fined $40,000, Harlan, for disparaging remarks against the officiating and disparaging remarks against the Big 12 itself.
I've never seen that before, Greg. Like, and I've watched football for a long time. I've never seen an AD publicly post-game just tear into his league.
Yeah.
Like, I think he said something like, I'm embarrassed to be a part of the Big 12 or something to that.
He's not happy. He's not happy being a part of the Big 12.
So that's one. And you may have commented on it before, but, after this, I would love to kind of hear your kind of monologue or your opinion on that dynamic. I'm pretty sure Brett Yormark gave him a call. Pretty sure he gave him a call.
Oh, yeah.
And secondly is great game of football this past weekend. I think within the next couple of weeks, we're going to start seeing Greg Sankey more and more on ESPN. More comments. Greg, I followed this football for a long time. Greg Sankey, I promise you, and when it happens, I want you to think of me. You're going to see him more and more on prime time slots with ESPN promoting his league. They're going to find a way to put a 2-loss team in over a 1-loss team, non-Power 2 team. I promise you, Greg, it's going to happen. And I don't want your followers to be upset, but this is Greg Sankey and ESPN. They're both complicit. One hand washes the other, and we're going to get talks about LSU and Alabama and all these teams. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put five SEC teams into the tournament, and I think it's going to come down to the loser of the Alabama or the Tennessee-Georgia game. and BYU and SMU. Those are, I think, are going to be the 4 teams vying for that last slot. He's going to find a way to put Tennessee or Alabama in there over SMU and BYU if BYU loses to in the conference championship game. But I'll get off your phone, and I would love to hear what you have to say about that, Greg.
I appreciate it, sir. Great call. Great call, sir. You know, you know who we have to see on ESPN in the next couple weeks? BJ's right. BJ's absolutely correct. We're going to see Greg Sankey. But we really need to see, at least going into the ACC championship game, we need to see ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips be arguing that both of his teams that are in the championship game get a shot, get a nod, get an invitation to the college football playoffs. He has to make an attempt. He's got to be aggressive because he wasn't last time from Florida State last year. Mark Ruckert, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. So funny that Harlan is challenging the refs. Professionalism in the most epic, unprofessional way anyone can remember from an AD. Thank you, Mark, for the super chat. Yeah, again, he shouldn't have done that. He should not have done it. It did not look good. It doesn't help. None of that helps. But I completely understand why Utah Ute would be upset. Even though I've agreed with the call. Now that I've seen it, last night I couldn't say either way because they only showed it once. It was a holding. BYU won that game. They shut down Utah's offense in the whole second half. And when your offense gets shut down in the whole second half, you know, you lose most of the time. But I completely understand the emotions of the Utah fan. I get it. But yeah, the athletic director should not have acted in that manner. Thank you, Mark Ruckert, for your incredible generosity once again to our channel, helping us keep the lights on. Appreciate it. I do not know how to pronounce it. I apologize. Achu One In. Again, I apologize for screwing that up. If you can let me know in the chat room phonetically how to say your name, let me know. Must thank the Texas Tech Red Raider fans for the tortillas they kindly donated. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Colorado Buffaloes, a big win in Lubbock, Texas. Something I got right. I projected. I got them going. I got Colorado's number 4. I've got a second round game in the playoffs. Number 4, Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Mr. Horn, on and on and on, versus number 5, the Oregon Ducks. I've got Colorado and Oregon in a quarterfinal game in the playoffs. What do you think about that? Holy smokes. A Chulian. And you know what? A Chulian, I apologize. I think you let me know quite a long time ago how to pronounce your name, and I completely forgot. I do apologize. A Chulian, thank you so much, A Chulian, for your generosity. I appreciate it. Those Colorado playoff ratings would be insane. Keep chopping. Georgia, Alabama deserve to be in because of their brands. That's the real discussion. Well, now Alabama defeated Georgia, right? The only reason why Georgia is still up here in the rankings, because they defeated Texas. And that is Texas' only loss. I mean, if Texas had 3 losses right now, if Texas wasn't at the top of the SEC, then I don't think Georgia would not be in the top 12. Not in my top 12. But Georgia has the only win against the Longhorns. But Georgia hasn't looked like Georgia. I have no problem with not having Georgia in the top 12 right now. I get it. I just happen to think they're going to beat Tennessee because I'm not a believer in the Volunteers. I am not. So there's going to be 2 teams that are struggling, going to play each other next week. One of them is going to get a little healthier because they're going to beat up on the other team that's struggling, and I think it's going to be Georgia. Yeah, we're going to have to cover that here. Let's get into it. Mike Norvell. Okay, hold on. I gotta log in. I'm logging into a Florida State 247 site here. Brennan Sanone, Florida State. Offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Alex Atkins has been relieved of his duties and is no longer with the program. Head coach Mike Norvell announced the change via release on Sunday afternoon. I appreciate the work these 3 men have provided over the last 5 years with me at Florida State. Norvell said in the release, which also pertained to the dismissals of defensive coordinator Adam Fuller and wide receivers coach Ron Duggins. They are all great men with families who have poured into our program, many great moments together. Offensive coordinator and the line coach Alex Atkins has been relieved of his duties. Florida State has also relieved of its duties defensive coordinator Adam Fuller and wide receiver coach Ron Duggins. Holy smokes. And again, they needed to do something. They needed to show something. It's not going to change anything for this year. Wow, that offense is ranked dead last in points per game. As I said earlier on this live show, Air Force, passed Florida State this last weekend. Now Florida State is dead last in points scored. And I don't even sure, it probably is about the X's and the O's. But on offense, they don't have the Jimmies and the Joes. They completely missed on talent evaluation. Those wide receivers do not get open. They can't make plays. That O-line can't block. They're two young quarterbacks. If they went in the portal, I don't believe any power conference school would take either one of them. Am I being too harsh? Maybe. Now, Florida State is going to be back at some point. A great brand and a great recruiting garden they got down there, but it's going to take a while. And I don't know if they can get back up with Mike Norvell again. He brought them up once, but when you slide, this is historic. This isn't a historic slide. This is unfathomable what has happened. Give us a call, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Give us a call here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Again, we went through the Athletic, the Big Ten, all the conferences, odds, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, 99, 99, 95, 92% chance to make the playoffs. In the Big 12, BYU, 59% chance to make the playoffs. Right now, this was this morning, according to the Athletic, Colorado, 41% chance. Kansas State hanging on by a thread, 14. Iowa State, 8. Arizona State, 3. And then you look at the ACC odds. Miami, 70% chance of making the playoffs. SMU, 42% chance. They still got Clemson at 38. And then you look at the SEC odds. Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. I agree. Those are the top 4. Because I happen to believe, and I think the Athletic happens to believe, I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments section with the phone call. I happen to believe that Tennessee is going to lose in Athens next week. And I believe the Aggies are going to lose to the Longhorns. If they don't, oh boy. If Texas A&M beats the Longhorns, now you're going to have chaos. The tiebreakers is going to come into play. The SEC, holy smokes. The only reason Norvell is still there because of his contract. If they didn't sign that deal not too long ago, they could have fired his butt. But now I think Florida State needs to clean house. That's a lot of money. How much is it? Like $60-some million? Plus, now, you got to pay out your assistant. The guys you just fired, you got to pay out their contracts. I don't know how long they are. That's money. I don't think so. Larry the GM, Greg, has a program ever gone from 13-1 to 1-11? Now, I don't think so, but the Seminoles are going to go 2-10 because they play Charleston. I think they're going to win that game, so 2-10. They're going to go 2-10. JP, Norvell lost the team and the staff. I got to disagree with a lot of Seminole fans, though. Because they keep saying this team is talented. No, it's not. That's not a talented team. Come on. It ain't. That offensive line has been blown away by everybody. The defense has some talent. That offense has no talent. Very little talent. Very little talent. They missed out on their talent evaluations completely. Keep chopping. Texas might be legit. I haven't seen the evidence of it yet. Again, they did lose to Georgia, and they struggled against Vanderbilt. So you have a point. Keep chopping. You have a point. Ray LA, got to buy new players too. Yep. If Tyler Brown, if Florida State loses to Charleston, I think their situation is beyond humor. And it would just be pitiful. Yeah, if they got Cam Ward, they wouldn't be any good. No way. I agree with NE. No, I mean, DJ isn't. But they got that whole offense is not good. If Charleston beats Florida State, fire him on the field. Holy smokes, John Till. Coming in with a very sharp elbow on the Coach Norvell. Thank you for the super chat, John Till. Appreciate it once again. I thought Rose did pretty good. I thought he did pretty good. Brandon Rose. They didn't quite get... They couldn't get points on the board in the second half. The entire second half. And when that happens... Yeah, no question. Florida State is a great brand. No question. Great fan base. Great fan base. Florida State Seminoles. Great fan base. Opie. A&M will beat the Longhorns. They have the horses in the trenches. And the linebackers, they're missing their running back, though. Levon Moss. That was a terrible loss to the Aggies. The wideouts will decide. I don't think either team will be able to run. Just got here about 15 minutes ago. I agree with you, Opie. Both Texas teams, A&M and the Longhorns, their running game, they've had injuries, both of them in the backfield. Michael Smith, at least Florida State can use the portal to bring in a whole new roster. Not every team could for various limitations. Yeah, they can. I just hope they have better talent evaluators. Because Mike Norvell just... but yes, they do have the ability, the brand. They have the pull. They're in a great location. Great fan base. Give us a call. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me check some more reporting here. Per contracts. Alex Atkins, offensive coordinator and O-line coach for the Seminoles. Alex Atkins, Adam Fuller, defensive coordinator for the Seminoles. And Ron Dugan's the wide receiver coach for the Seminoles, who just all got released, will be owed. Those three gentlemen will be owed a combined total of roughly $8.5 million in buyouts. $8.5 million. That's a lot of money.
Call from
Jose, fight on.
Jose, fight on. $8.5 million, Jose. That's what Florida State just spent on buyouts for the 3 coaches they just fired. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Ouch. Yeah. I mean, they had to make moves. They had to show something.
Yeah, yes.
Definitely to their boosters, if nothing else.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Correct.
Yeah, and I actually called in about Tennessee. There's a lot of, I think you yourself said that you didn't think that Tennessee was for real.
Something's going on there. Yep.
Yeah, just looking at the stats, they have the best defense in the SEC. They've allowed the least amount of points, and they're not blowing teams out like they did in the past. Heupel used to have this high-flying offense where they'd put up 50 burgers week in, week out, and just blow teams out. This year, I think they, at least in the offseason, it looks like he focused on, improving the defense, because that was the joke about, when I go into, chat rooms or whatever, just to see what the SEC, banter was like, and they'd all be making fun of Tennessee, saying, you guys are in the SEC with no defense. Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like they took it upon themselves and now have a defense. They're not blowing teams out. They're not flashy like they used to be, but I believe that Tennessee is actually a contender to play in the SEC title game. I don't think they're getting the due credit that they deserve.
Yeah, well, they're not going to get credit from me. I got to see it next week. They're going to have to beat Georgia in Athens. Mm-hmm. This is what I believe is wrong with. This is what I believe what's wrong with Tennessee. Okay. I do not like that. I do not like that offensive line. I really like that running back they got back there. I forget his name. I wrote about him on my Twitter page on Saturday. Hold on a second. Sampson, what's his first name? Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
I really like him. He's a good running back. He's a good running back because he makes yards when the O-line doesn't give him anything. Now, the quarterback, Nico, young kid, started out on fire, right? But there's something like his play has not only leveled out, but it has slipped a little bit. I don't know if he's hit a wall like Dylan Raiola in Nebraska. These young freshmen, this is his first full season, Nico. I think he might have hit a wall. But then again, he's playing against Carson Beck next week, who has completely slid off the table in production. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Carson Beck seems to be going through. He's just not really. I mean, even last year, my in-laws are all Georgia fans. I live here in Atlanta, and my wife isn't. My wife roots for USC, but all her family is trying to convert us into Georgia, and we're like, no, that's my thing. And so, just talking to them, they were very disappointed with Carson Beck last year, and this year they're just livid. It's just he's not, and they lost a lot of weapons. Their tight end went to the pros, and their just receiving crew isn't what it used to be. They got one good receiver, I believe, McConkey, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
But yeah, offensively, they just don't have the firepower that they used to have. Yeah. They really, always prided themselves though in being a running team, from what they've told me. And defensively, they're just not as sharp as they used to be. I think Tennessee can pull off an upset next week. I mean, I want to see what the spread is before I lay down any money on it. But Tennessee right now is hot. They've won 4 straight. They got the longest winning streak in the SEC. And even though they're on the road, I think Georgia right now is just not in a good spot. Like every game that I've seen them, play, they trailed in the first half. Kentucky, South Carolina, you name it. They've been trailing in the first half, and I thought it was maybe Kirby Smart just shielding his playbook, trying to hide things, and then unleashing his team in the second half. But they didn't pull it off this week, so there might be something more something underlying that's not just Kirby Smart trying to, play vanilla offense and defense in the first half and then unleashing the dogs in the second half. I think there might be something to where they're just not quite executing as they wanted to. I know that they didn't acquire all the players that they wanted to in the offseason.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley, Eric Henderson. USC has been recruiting heavily here in Georgia. And there was a lot of players that Georgia wanted that they did not because USC got them, one of them being Jade Mayava. So I don't know if maybe they're just working with what they've got or what the issue is, but I would not be surprised if Tennessee pulled off an upset against Georgia next week.
All right. Well, you and I are going to butt heads on that, man. All right. I got Georgia. You got Tennessee. We'll see what happens,
Tennessee.
Sir.
Yeah. Give me the points. I'll take the points in Tennessee.
You got Greg the Cooler on your side, so, you're bound to win. All right.
It's going to happen. All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Kerry Gold Knowles, you and I have got to talk. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your incredible generosity once again. Thank you so very much for your incredible kindness. However, I almost went blind watching the Jaguars-Vikings game today. That was horrific. That was a terrible football game. I'll get to that in a second. Kerry Gold knows between my nose and my Jaguars, this is the worst season ever. Fired 3 coaches. Yeah, we talked about it. $8.5 million. Atkins is out. The O-line, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, wide receiver coach, all released. It's all going to cost $8.5 million in buyout money. I rarely talk NFL on this show or even on my Twitter account, X account. Sam Darnold and Mac Jones. That was terrible. Every fan in that stadium should get their money back. I mean, Jaguars have no shot. No shot. And Sam Darnold, that was the worst. I mean, that game was so painful to watch. The incompetence. I mean, the Vikings had more, at one point in that game, the Vikings had run more plays on Jacksonville's side of the field, their side of the 50, more plays on Jacksonville's side of the 50 than Jacksonville had run any plays anywhere all game long. And it was like in the fourth quarter that was true. The Vikings held the ball for 40 minutes and there was still like 7 minutes to go in the game. Jacksonville is terrible. And the Vikings were allergic to the end zone. You got to tip your cap to the Jaguars defense, though. They hung in tough, man. They were making tough. But Sam Darnold, jeez. I thought Mac Jones was going to be... I am guilty. I've been talking about Florida State. Terrible talent evaluation under Mike Norvell with this group of players. I am guilty. I thought Mac Jones was going to be decent. He's terrible. Mac Jones is terrible. Sam Darnold is terrible. The Chiefs won on a blocked field goal. The Chiefs don't lose. They just don't lose. They don't lose. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But again, it would be J.J. McCarthy. He wasn't going to start game one, but he was going to be the starter. So J.J. McCarthy was pretty dang good in preseason. Like in practice, going into preseason. Then the one game he was in, he was great. And then suddenly after the game, he felt a little something in his knee, and it was a meniscus tear. And suddenly J.J. McCarthy is out for the season for the Vikings because we do not deserve good things here at Minnesota. Because I am the mayor of Loserville City. So we got to watch Sam Darnold. Elliot Howard, what if USC knocked off Notre Dame? It would take Notre Dame out of the playoffs. Now, it might be the correct move to take Miller Moss out. I think Miller Moss would have a better chance, but we'll see. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Fuller, the defensive coordinator, owed $4.6 million. Atkins owed $3.1 million. The wide receiver coach owed $800,000. So it comes out to be $8.5 million. Florida State, Ray LA. Notre Dame is going to be in the playoffs. Well, my projections of November 3rd had Notre Dame in the playoffs. And now I got them projected. Now I got Notre Dame projected number 7. Again, this is not what I think is going to be released Tuesday. This is what I think is going to ultimately happen, the final playoff bracket. I got Notre Dame projected at number 7. Number 7.
From
Steel Austin.
I'm sorry, did not get the name.
Steel Austin.
I'm sorry, did not get the name. Okay,
Steel.
I'm getting an echo. Can you turn that off? And Lawson?
Steel Austin.
Oh, Steel Austin. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, first time caller.
You got it. I appreciate you calling, man.
Yeah, I know it's always been good being on the chat and
Yeah.
Appreciate your show for sure. So I just wanted to call in because I follow you pretty closely on Peek Around the Corner, and I really like the what you've shared about the future of the CFP, and I'm just curious from your perspective, why do you think the P2, like, why do you think they don't just break away now? What are they, in other words, I don't understand why they want to give up CFP places to the ACC and the Big 12 and the G5 representative when, I mean, clearly with the resources that the P2 schools have now and the talent disparity, it's not a fair fight. And it just seems to me like the P2 schools are leaving a lot of money on the table by not breaking away. So I'm just curious from your perspective, like, where do you see this going? Because I know this 12-team playoff is just like a 2-year experiment, and then it gets renegotiated in 2026 to maybe move to a 16-team or whatever the format's going to be. And I'm just wondering, what's the end game for the P2? I'd just love to get comments on that.
All right. I do not know what the end game is of the Power 2. I'm going to be honest with you. I know this is college football's peek around the corner, but everybody I've talked to, serious people, do not know what the end game is, because I don't think they know what the end game is. Okay, so what happened, Steele, is this. The Power 2 was not, even if they want, now they threatened it, they used it as leverage, but even if they wanted to separate, even if they could gather all the presidents, athletic directors, and everybody agreed to it, the breakaway, they were not legally in a position to be able to do so. There was so many uncertainty. There was House versus the NCAA. Remember? That was in the courts. Yeah. All this stuff is... So this was not a good timing for Sankey and Petitti. If they wanted to go in that direction, they could not. They just couldn't get it done. So when they were talking to... Now, ESPN they owe the bowl games, all the major bowl games, right? So the college football playoffs were going to have to go through ESPN. They weren't going to be able to go up to bid. They weren't going to... Once you have the bowls in place in the playoffs, that basically meant that ESPN was in control of the playoffs. And when they negotiated with ESPN wanted a certain amount of years on the deal. They wanted control all the way until they ended their bowl tie-ins, their bowl control. And that is 2031. I'm saying all this, Steele, because that means that to make that deal with ESPN for the 12-team playoffs, and they have a 14 playoff written into the deal, that, again, that tied the hands of the Power 2 to be able to go on their own, right? Until 2031, or make the announcement a couple years before that, whatever. So, and I kept saying that. All these people who were saying that the Power 2 is going to break away in 25 and 26, it was never reality. What are they going to do when we get into 28, 29, and 30? I don't know.
Got you. So
go ahead.
2030 is the magic time frame in your mind.
Yeah, somewhere in the late 20s or 2030. There is, if they decided to do that, Steele, there'd be a lot of hurdles, political hurdles, relationship hurdles. Not to mention that their current media partners don't want it to happen because they're making money on. They don't want the ACC schools' value to completely collapse, or the Big 12 to completely collapse, or even the G5 games. They want inventory. And if you're going to break it off, if you're going to have a break off, then how much less valuable is the Big 12 and the ACC? And that hurts these media companies. There's a lot of hurdle. Now, I am not going to sit here and say it's not going to happen. No way am I going to say that. I'm a moron, but I'm not that big of a moron still. Okay? Because forever is a very long time. The forces of consolidation, the economics, like you're saying, they're probably leaving money on the table. We know that the top 16 brands are probably leaving some money on the table for staying in a conference that's called the SEC, for staying in a conference that's called the Big Ten. But I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to follow the story every single day, poke and prod, remain curious. And I'm not going to definitely say it's going to happen or not happen. But hopefully that answers some of the reasons why it hasn't happened yet. There was never a chance for it to happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Greg. That makes sense. I guess looking at next year, I know that the scheduling agreement that the Big Ten and the SEC are working on, that's going to really open things up as far as forcing Notre Dame's hand.
Yeah,
because that's gonna hurt Notre Dame, and if that truly does be the catalyst to push Notre Dame to join the Big Ten finally, my understanding is it's already written into the Big Ten's media contract that Notre Dame is guaranteed a certain amount of money, and they can bring along with them up to 3 more teams. If I heard that correctly.
I don't know. I don't know about the 3 more teams. I know people were talking about that at the time, but I never really got that confirmed. But the Notre Dame is written in the contract, and they're the only school that is written in the contract that is outside the Big Ten.
Gotcha.
There's no other. Okay, there's no other names in there for legal reasons. Notre Dame's the only independent program that. Okay.
Gotcha. Well, just so I don't hijack your show, just the final question I just wanted to ask though is just kind of playing that out. If Notre Dame really were to, to finally get off the pot, so to speak, and join the Big Ten, do you think that's kind of the one that would break the dam open, so to speak? And if so, how many teams are you thinking? Are you seeing the Big Ten and the SEC kind of moving to it, eventually, in your mind? Are you thinking 20 teams each, or 24 teams, or do you have any idea?
I don't know. And I don't like to speculate on it, because then people take my speculation as reporting. I let you guys speculate on it. I try to. I do not know. It all depends economically. What type of structure, if they are going to break away or not going to break away. I've often been told in the world that the Big Ten would break away with the SEC, or break away on their own if them and the SEC get in a big knife fight over some issue. That the Big Ten would undoubtedly grab a school out of the state of Texas. If they were going to go and create their own universe. But if they don't, if they keep going on as is, I can see the Big Ten stopping at 20, but I can also see a situation where they go beyond 20. Same with the SEC, so I really don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Greg, I just really appreciate your show. It's you do such a fantastic job, and I appreciate you taking my call. It's great to be on Peek Around the Corner. So thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Steele. Great call. Call again, sir.
Will do.
Call from
Larry the GM.
Larry the GM, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Well, number one, Greg, I want to say I thought you did a really good job with your CFP rankings, where you think the teams will eventually fall. I think there's a lot of things, and there's some issues there that people need to realize the realities of the competitive situation. Greg, if you look at the AP poll right now, the Big Ten and the SEC have the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 9, and the 10. They literally could host their own CFP playoff between those two conferences, and have a ton of fan interest in just that. I know that people in other parts of the country will say, "Well, I wouldn't watch it," but they literally have 8 of the top 10 teams between the two conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other theme that is playing out this year is the transfer portal. Give it, and the transfer portal takes it away. Florida State is really suffering because they have been so dependent on the transfer portal for several years. Greg, what school do you think had the best year in the transfer portal last offseason? Is it Ole Miss?
They got Trey Harris. Who else did they get?
Well, I just went to Sports 24/7, and they racked up a ton of transfers, and were rated number 1 by Sports 24/7 in their transfer portal ratings. So I'm not sure exactly who it was. They got 25 commits, and Oregon was 2, Alabama was 3, A&M was 4. Of course, now A&M lost a lot, so this isn't like in and out. This is just what they got in. And then Texas was 5. But then Florida State was 7. And I think if you revisited that, the Florida State transfer portal rating would be significantly lower than what it shows up in there now.
Yeah.
It would be really interesting for these services to go back and say, okay, wait a minute, let's go back and re-rate the transfer portal. How does these teams really do in the transfer portal? Because I think that the story that I think some of these big programs are going to really figure out is like, we have to be really, really careful with who we get in the transfer portal. We need to devote more resources to figuring out and scouting the players that go into the portal and figuring out who we really want to get.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that, and I also think there's going to be different philosophies going forward. Like when it comes to the portal, there are some programs out there who can recruit a quarterback out of high school. They can go for the top guys out of high school. They have the brand, they have the whatever, the history, the development. There are going to be some programs that I think are going to be feasting on grabbing the best quarterback they can find in the portal every year. Same with wide receivers. People are going to be allocating their money towards people coming in the portal, either through their salary cap or their outside collective, or both. And I think there's going to be different philosophies going forward. Not as extreme as Dabo not doing anything and, versus
right.
Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. But there are going to be differences. So it's going to be interesting how it works out.
Well, I think that's the Vanderbilt model, right? I mean, I think they've kind of philosophically said we're going to go get a few key players, a top quarterback, because we can't recruit against the rest of the teams in the SEC, but we may be able to use all the vast resources we have to go get a key player here or there. Yeah. And I think the issue with like a Florida State and maybe, Ole Miss is making it work, but these schools that go take so many players in the portal, I think that causes a lot of, I think USC is also in this camp. That causes a lot of disunity within that program, within that team. You have all these players coming in and just like, what is the culture if you're changing out 20-plus players every year through the portal plus the recruits? I think it's just a much more difficult proposition than maybe we have assumed in the first couple of years.
Yep. Great call, sir.
Right,
Once
Greg,
again.
That's what I had for you. I know you got other callers and other topics, but those are the two things I want to talk about. The fact that I think you did a really good job with the ratings. I think, I know people aren't going to be happy if the Power 2 get 4 teams each in, but I think the way that the way things are playing out in the ACC and the Big 12, it's probably likely.
Yeah, it probably is likely, but we'll see, right?
Right.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Beautiful call. Larry the GM once again. Mr. Longhorn. He's the only guy who's not upset with me right now. And look, my prof is saying polls are stupid, need automatic qualifiers for the first 12 spots. Again, I've talked about it. I told you guys live on a live show September 9th. We had a big live show. I said in the next month to 6 weeks, I said you're going to be hearing reports, articles about how the Big Ten is going to be aggressively pushing for the 4 automatic qualifier spots in future playoffs. And then all the reporting came out. People are going to have to ask themselves, after this year, in a 14-team playoff, as a fan, as a college football fan, I don't want this to happen. I don't like it. But I'm telling you, it's being pushed. Now, if you are the ACC commissioner, forget about being the ACC commissioner. If you are a fan of an ACC team, if you are a fan of a Big 12 team, has your opinion changed? Would you support a playoff system that went from 12 to 14 teams? And within that 14 teams, there would be 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC, 4 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten, 2 automatic qualifiers for the Big 12, 2 automatic qualifiers for the ACC, 1 automatic qualifier for the G5, and 1 at large. Because, of course, most fans of Big 12 and ACC schools were completely against it. In fact, some ACC fans in our chat room were against it because they think they can get more than 4 teams in the playoffs. Why are we constricted to 4 qualifiers and try to get 1 more at large? We could get 6 or 7 teams in the playoffs. There should be no automatic qualifiers. There should be no automatic berth for winning the conference championship game. But my question is, if you are promised 2 in a 14-team playoff, should the Big 12 grab that? Should the ACC say, okay, we'll take it? Seeing what's being played out in the first of the 6 years. Remember, this goes on for 6 years. Let me know. I don't know if we're going 4-4-2-2-1. I don't know, but I'm asking, is that... A lot of people were against it. Are you changing your mind just a little bit? Just a little bit. Yes, you'd have to go for that. I think that would be a bad deal for the P2, but a great deal for the Big 12 and the ACC. And again, look, you can make the argument that it would be a bad deal for the P2. But I told you this on September 9th. I'm telling you again November 10th. This is what their media partners want. They want certainty. They want to be able to market, to be able to advertise, to be able to say, finish in the top 4. Then you can have your own little semifinal playoff weekend on a flex schedule, and it ain't going to hurt you. That's how you're going to figure out your conference champion, whatever. They want to have that certainty. The Big Ten and the SEC want to play against each other. In other words, there's going to be more losses built up within this universe of SEC and the Big Ten because they're going to be playing more non-conference games against each other, less against G5, a little bit less with ACC, a little bit less with Big 12. So there's going to be more losses built into this universe. But those losses aren't going to matter if you got 4 automatic qualifiers based on conference records in the 2 conferences. So what you're doing is you might be building losses with a scheduling agreement, but because you've got the automatic qualifiers, all you're doing is building stacks of cash to help pay for all these changes in college sports. That is the scenario that the SEC and the Big Ten are working towards without getting in legal issues, legal trouble, allegedly. Woo! I do not like the Auto 1 and 2, though. I don't like any of what I'm talking about. But the Auto 1 and 2, oh boy, I would not like that at all. No, 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 no. No! I could not stomach that. Oh. Stephen McNeely, I'm always mystified why people judge the Big Ten and SEC based on the top 3 or 4 teams in each conference. That's how we, that's what we do in basketball and baseball and every sport. What are the teams at the top of the conference that can go in and win the national championship? That's how we base the hockey. That's how we base everything on. The top of the conference. Every year, 26, 28 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC are in par with the Big 12 and the ACC. Okay, I think we'll call it a night. Thank you for showing up on a Sunday, early evening, afternoon, late afternoon live show. I appreciate it. College football playoff projections, aftermath of week 11. We went through it all. Now, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the games that are coming up in week 12. Tomorrow is week 12, talking about those games. And then Tuesday night, join us in real time as the College Football Playoff Committee releases their next rankings. We're going to be talking about it live. We're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to be hearing the yelling, the screaming, the crying, and the dancing from all of you. I cannot wait. Tuesday night is going to be a big, fun night in college football. Live show Tuesday night. So join us Tuesday. And of course, Monday, we're going to be talking about week 12 football games. Wednesday, we're going to be making our selections. It's going to be a fun week. And maybe, who knows, maybe there's going to be other big news breaking. So keep your head on a swivel. The college football's peek around the corner. Before you leave, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you've liked our content today. Share the video with your family and friends. Thank you for the wonderful donations, the comments in the chat room, and the great phone calls. I do appreciate it. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.